And you is major news. Tomorrow they'll see what we are. And sure as a star, we ain't come this far to lose. Look at me, I'm the king of New York. Suddenly, I'm respectable, staring right at your mouth.
Look at Kara's ears.
I know.
King of New York. Victory, rock and story, gods and glory, I'm the king. New York, now's the time to seize the day.
I live by Seize the Day. I can't even make this up. What a great little season too.
Mm-hmm.
There's change coming once and for all. You're getting too old.
That's not
Till
true.
once and for all. You're gone. Once and for all. Once and for all. Once and
Well, hello there. I'm just gonna Newsies fansies it up, guys.
Right.
Hello, welcome to the Broadway Fan Club. I am Heather, and to my left, your right, is our wonderful friend Amber, and co-host of the show, co-owner of the Broadway Fan Club. That was just a little bit of a taste of what we're getting today, guys. Because if you didn't know it, one, it's our 20th episode. Woohoo! 500,000 followers in 4 months is great. But two, we have, I told him when I met him that he literally made my Newsies bingo, the one, the only Jeff Calhoun. So we will go into our normal news stuff, and then we're going to bring Jeff on. We're going to learn all about his involvement with directing Newsies and the Grease Revival with Rosie O'Donnell. Hello. Also, his involvement with so many different organizations and what he's doing now, which I can't wait to talk about. And you guys have heard me like just fangirl over The Boy Who Loved Batman. So please, if you have any questions for Jeff, definitely put them up in our comments. No question. Oh, there you go. Hi, Cheyenne. But yeah, feel free to ask any questions. As Jeff says, he's an open book. We'll bring him on in just a couple of minutes. So we'll get right down to business. So Miss Amber is driving the bus for, quote, Broadway news.
Broadway news. Yeah, we have some quick Broadway news this week. We had some kind of interesting ticket initiatives that were announced this week. We had two shows that just announced some ticket initiatives. We had our friends at Water for Elephants. They announced the Memory Maker program, which will be a number of nonprofit organizations supporting their missions and efforts, offering subsidized tickets to students, undeserved, and senior audiences beginning September 24th. So that'll be a great way to get some tickets out to some folks that wouldn't typically be able to see the show.
Love it. Making it approachable and accessible for everybody. Yeah, absolutely.
Right. I love that. We also had SUFS launching a new ticket initiative, which is aimed at mobilizing young voters ahead of this year's presidential election. Of course, you're going to expect that from SUFS.
Yes.
Their program will offer $19 rush tickets to patrons 25 and under, and buy one, get one $25 tickets for guests under 18.
That's awesome.
This will be for all performances through November 5th, which is Election Day.
And as Cheyenne says, whatever gets people in to see the awesomeness that is theater. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic. And I'd expect nothing less from SUFS at this point to do, something to get people into the theater, to get people in voting, and
absolutely. Know what though? I feel like I want to go off script for a second.
Yeah.
I'm gonna see if I get the thumbs up. Hey Jeff, you want to come in early? join us for some Broadway news? Say yes. Okay. Jeff's coming on, guys. I'm just going to throw this system out, throw the book out. It is my pleasure to make Jeff Calhoun join our Broadway news, but Tony nominated and will eventually get his damn Tony, the one, the only, Jeff Calhoun to the stage. Hello.
Hey, hi, Heather. Hey, Amber. How are you?
Hi, Jeff.
Doing great. Thanks for coming.
Yeah,
I agree with the person that wrote that. The more we can get people into the theater, the better.
Yeah, absolutely. It's making it accessible. You know a lot about theater accessibility. We'll get to that a little bit later too. But we're so happy to have you join us. Honestly, we usually go through our Broadway news alone, but having a Broadway professional with us, feel free to give us your input too. You know, it's really key. We want to make sure that we're always representing the community and making sure that we're getting the news out there and informing everybody. So, yeah, we'll hang out and then we're going to get down the rabbit hole of Jeff Calhoun. Very excited.
Well, it sounds like Amber knows more than I do. You know, it's like when you live in a city, you don't really know as much as when a tourist comes. I didn't know about both of those. I have friends in both Elephant and Suff, so I love both of that news. Thank you, Amber. Tell me more.
Yeah, of course. I do my research before the show.
She does. She does our Broadway news research. We talk about it, and then she surprises me with stuff, and I'm like, okay, that's amazing. Yes, and Water for Elephants is a show that we hold dear to our heart because it's the first time we met in person after working together for about 6 months prior. And opening night after party is where we decided to create the Broadway Fan Club. So,
wow! And for me, it touches my heart because the fabulous director Jessica was actually
amazing.
Frenchie in the Grease production I directed.
Can I show you something? Can I nerd out for a second? Does this look familiar?
Yeah, of course it does. That's where Jessica, I think it was her first Broadway show. I might be making that up, but there she is.
Well, there you go.
She played Frenchie. And I just got a pedicure today in a place called Frenchie's. And I said, is it called Frenchie's because of Grease? And the girl was like 20 and looked at me like, what?
And if you guys can see this cast list, let's see.
Well, hopefully the pedicure, the manicurist wasn't a beauty school dropout.
Oh my goodness.
Which actually was Billy Porter in our production. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, that cast was stacked. Megan Mullally. I mean, yeah, you had your hands full though, Jeff. You had your
Sam Harris. It was stacked. It was stacked.
It was stacked.
But you have to stack the deck, man. It's hard to make. It's a miracle anything gets up, and then it's a double miracle that it works. So you've got to stack the deck, which we've done. When we get to it, Boy Who Loved Broadway, we have stacked the deck.
Oh yeah. Oh, I cannot wait to get into it. So excited. You know what? We're really going off the bus. I'm going to share, if you guys have not had the opportunity in the mid to early 90s, so 1994, when this incredible cast that Jeff wrangled to do this. Here, let's show a little bit of a clip, if that's okay. Stand by.
Yeah.
We're good. The book's out. We're just going to go right here. I'm happy for it. Here you go, guys.
That's the way it should be. Summer breeze, shake, shake, yeah, shake it. Shake, shake, yeah, shake it. Everybody shake it, shake it at the high school hop.
Look at Rosie O'Donnell. They're doing all my choreo from high school. There's Billy Porter.
There he is.
And plunk shampoo. Well, at least you could have taken time to wash and clean those clothes up. After spending all that dough to have.
There's Jessica.
She's so tiny compared to him. She looks great.
For the people that don't know, that's the director of Water for Elephants and Kimberly Akimbo.
Yeah.
Sam Harris, who won the very first Star Search.
What a stacked cast. My goodness. Yes.
Ricky Paul.
So much
Gold.
choreo, Jeff. My goodness.
It was my first time I lost.
We're going to start a petition. Oh, yeah. All right. This could go on for hours. I'm not going to do this to everybody. There you go. All right.
Wow.
I was like, because I will keep doing this.
You know, that's a trip. I've never seen that.
No? It was just, it's
Where
a
did you
sizzle
get that? Where did you find that?
I will send you the link. It's a sizzle reel that was put together for the 1994 revival.
Oh my.
Grease was one of those musicals that I saw way too young where I didn't understand like any of the jokes.
I mean, I think we all started off young.
Yeah.
But also
it's terrible for young girls. I don't understand its success. I know I shouldn't say that, but it's a terrible message.
It really is.
It's a terrible message, but it sure is fun. And we had 4 years in New York, and it was just a great chapter. Megan Mullally and Ricky Paul Golden, and like we said, Billy Porter and Sam Harris. It was really something.
I mean, and we'll get into it like way down the rabbit hole, but Grease was my gateway drug. So I've always been like a theater nerd and like, well, no, but that was like my first musical I remember besides Disney musicals. And I was in marching band in middle school through high school. And my friend Shauna Bresnahan, that we talk about on the show every once in a while, was in American Musical Theater as her senior year or junior. Well, she went all the way through high school. And she goes, if you've ever wanted to get into the musical theater side of things, you don't want to do band anymore because I was kind of burnt out. She goes, we're doing Grease. And I said, wait, what? I remember we were at a Chili's because our community used to do like appetizers for like the community, like whatever. It was 15. She's like, we're doing Grease. I said, wait, what? And I immediately dropped band. I went into Grease. I helped choreograph it. I was supposed to be in it. I was understudy for Sandy. I can sing, I can dance, I can move, but I like the backstage part of it, pulling all the strings. So, but what a hell of a show. And then I became obsessed just with everything theater from that moment on. And it hasn't stopped.
I love that Greaseway was your gateway drug. You know, a lot of that choreography, Jerry Mitchell was my associate choreographer.
Right.
And
unbelievable.
So we were a great team until Jack took him into a Hairspray, and then I lost him. He just skyrocketed.
And I'll send you that link to that video because I mean, there's just so much behind it.
But listen, you can do band and theater. I was also in our band. I was in our marching band. I started as our quarterback as a freshman. And
I saw that.
I had my knee bent backwards, and I returned the next season as drum major.
Ow.
And then I would. One spring, the musical was Once Upon a Mattress, and I was the choreographer. I chose that show because I had the whole football team agreed to be in the chorus of the show, and I wanted to put them all in tights. So, I'm not sure if that was subliminal back then or not, but that's the truth.
I mean,
that's amazing.
You did everybody a service. That's
well, I don't know. I lost a few friends on the football team.
Oh, they weren't really friends. And it's always funny. They always say like that football players should become dancers, especially like into ballet, because they learn more how to be light on their feet.
Right.
Okay. Absolutely. You know, the first one that did that in the NFL was from Pittsburgh. I'm from Pittsburgh and a diehard Steeler fan. Lynn Swan was our receiver for the Steelers. And Lynn Swan was the first one that made ballet cool if you were a football player.
That's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to do whatever you can to perfect your craft. And if it means putting on some pink tights, why not? Who cares?
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, we wanted to throw that one at you, Jeff. All right, let's hear some more Broadway news because we're almost done with that. Then we're going to just Jeff Calhoun this place up.
Yeah. So next we have some new casts all across the board. As you know, Eddie Redmayne, Gail Rankin, Ado Blakeson Wood said happy trails to Cabaret. So we have new cast joining. Adam Lambert, Alili Crivello, and Calvin Leon Smith are joining Cabaret.
No, I'm a huge Adam. I wanted to put him in a show forever. I'm a huge ever since I saw him on TV. I'm a huge Adam Lambert fan.
Oh, he is going to do phenomenal as the MC.
Oh my God, I can't wait. Oh my God.
Yeah. So I'm hoping to go this week because I'll be up in New York for Flea, which we'll get into in a minute. But yeah, I'm planning on going this week. Tonight is their opening night for that. So all Lily, who's the voice of Moana, and Adam Lambert. I mean, I'm so excited because I got a chance to see Eddie and I got a chance to see David Marino. Like, there's so much. So we're really excited about it. The Glamberts are coming out in full force too.
Full force, yeah. Then we also have Alyssa Milano joining the cast of Chicago on September 16th as Roxy Hart. Crazy. So that will be exciting, making her Broadway debut.
You know, Amber, that's funny. Chicago has become what I used to call our Greece. I used to call Greece the love boat of Broadway.
Yes. Chicago has an opening door.
Stars, and it's the same producers, Fran and Barry Weisler. So no one does it better. They know how to do it. So
they turn. Yeah.
This is good news, Amber. What else? Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. We have 2 Broadway debuts in The Notebook, replacing Jordan Tyson and John Cardoza. We have Anna Zavelson and Benji Santiago making their Broadway debut for a couple of months before it closes. So congratulations to them. Very exciting. I know they're going to do amazing. And then we had Marsha Mason stepping in for Mia Farrow, who is out with COVID right now. In The Roommate. Yes. So Marsha Mason actually stepped in abruptly and had to do the role in The Roommate alongside Patty Lupone. So that's very exciting.
Jeffrey Eisner just said, I loved watching Jeff on Win, Lose, or Draw. Best contestant ever.
You know what? I'm sorry because I was so interested in what Amber, I feel bad. I don't mean to boomerang around, but Jeffrey, I can't believe only like 3 people know about what he's talking about. When I was a young actor in LA trying to be discovered, went on a game show and it was called Win, Lose, or Draw. And I wasn't allowed to say I was in showbiz because at the time they thought that would confuse the audience. Like, wait, you're in showbiz, but why are you a contestant? So I pretended if I wasn't in showbiz, I wanted to be a gym teacher. So I told them I was a gym teacher. And I can't believe somebody knows that I was on Win, but I won like $16,000 or $18,000 and bought the very first like camcorder. Back in the days. This would have been in the early 80s. So I was the first one of my friends to own one, and we caused a lot of trouble. Because people didn't know that regular people could have cameras like that. They thought you were from the news. So I would go to the local fast food places and walk in line where the cars are with my camera and say, I was just checking out the restaurant. I wanted to know how clean it was. Were they having We had a lot of fun back then, but sorry, I digress, Amber.
No, you're totally
that's actually all we have for the Broadway news. So I'm glad
we have some Broadway Flea. I'm just enjoying Jeffrey's conversation with Jeff. Oh, and I'm an avid game show watcher, and you killed it. I remember being like, oh my God, that's Broadway genius, Jeff Calhoun.
You know what, though, Jeffrey Eisner, I'm still to this day pissed because I could have won the next round too, but I was working with Jill Whelan, who was the girl on The Love Boat, and she was supposed to say auctioneer, and she said auction. And so I had to be gracious, but I really was upset because I would have won another couple $1,000.
That's amazing. Well,
you could have got some sound equipment to go with your video equipment.
Yeah, right. You might have been in the movies at that point.
Anyway, you guys are fun.
So, and then the additional news is coming up for Broadway Flea. We do still have our sign-up sheet available for personal shopping, but I was given exclusive information and details to release to you guys. I'm going to do it now because I want to give Jeff as much time as we possibly can. Couple of updates. Also, if you don't know what the Broadway Flea is like a giant garage sale of all the theaters that Broadway Cares Equity Fights AIDS puts on every year. It's one day a year. And all of the money raised goes right into Broadway Cares Equity Fights AIDS. There's a live auction. There's an online auction called Flea Bay. We will post all the links available through all of our groups as well as on our website. Right now, the autograph table and photo booth time slots are open, as well as all of the names have been put out there. We put some of them out there. BB Newworth will be there. So that's really key to know, like, get in there, get your stuff ordered, your slots ordered first. The silent and live auction items are open for pre-bidding, meaning you can put a pre-bid in and then you'll pull everything up. They are working on updating the flea map. It is still not released. We will be on top of it when it's released, but I have cool information that nobody else does. We get to tell you guys. Very cool stuff. Two huge items. So I don't know if you guys know the name David Burka and his husband Neil Patrick Harris. They are actually a small name.
I've heard of them.
Maybe every once in a while, once or twice. David Burka is managing a table of items that have been donated by himself and Neil Patrick Harris. We don't know if Neil Patrick Harris will be in attendance, but fans of his work will be able to explore treasures from across his career, in addition to other various items from the pair's collections. So they're going to be selling off lots of stuff, lots of photo opportunities. Again, not sure if Neil Patrick Harris will be there, but we don't know if he will or won't. So it's kind of a gamble, but come on down anyways. Another really cool thing that Broadway Cares is doing, they're calling it the Sondheim Scavenger Hunt. So tables across the fleet have been given scripts, vocal selections, and more from Sondheim's home and personal collection. Oh, they've been identified with a sticker that says Seal of Authenticity, printed with Sondheim's signature. They'll be placed on random tables at different times throughout the day. So you might have something that belonged to Sondheim, signed by Sondheim. And it's been promised that they will be extremely affordable. What that means, I have not a clue.
That's awesome. I want one of those.
If I find one, Jeff, I'll send it your way.
I also want Neil Patrick Harris because I'm one of his biggest fans. He's just amazing.
If he's there, I'll
amazing.
Ask him if he can come back. I'll get him to come to opening night for The Boy Who Loved Batman.
Well, that would be great because he's amazing, and I've not met him, and I'm a huge fan.
I love him.
He can do anything.
I watched him go through the journey that was Hedwig and the Angry Inch and the toll that it took in his body. And people were so worried, but he just became so physically crazy fit. But I watched him and David Burka every Halloween because they're known for their Halloween costumes with their kids. And it's unbelievable. But they're just, they seem like such a lovely pair. So we'll be excited to see what happens. I will be there. And guess what, guys? Amber's going to be there too on Sunday. So
I am going to be there.
So excited.
It's this Sunday?
Broadway Flea is this Sunday.
Oh, I'll be in rehearsals at the Straz Center.
Right behind you. At least you don't have much of a commute.
I walk across the street for rehearsals every day.
Every day. There we go. Yes, Lucy is looking forward to Broadway Flea. Yeah, it's going to be a really fun event. It's going to be raising money for Broadway Cares, which is massive. And guys, we have some really exciting news coming up from Broadway Cares after this week, so stay tuned for next week's episode. But let's look at the true star of our wonderful podcast, this man below us. That sounds awful. Jeff. Hi, Jeff. That's No, I mean, so you guys kind of heard the story if you tuned into my post Tampa Bay Comic-Con show, and I did this wrap up where I was like, yeah, I'm a huge Batman fan, and I saw there was this Batman panel, but then they're and Jeff Calhoun and Bob Niederlander Jr. And I'm like, wait, how are two things I love coming together? I had just wrapped, and Jeff can attest to this. So can Amber. I had just finished hosting a Star Wars trivia panel. And I was in full Sith with full Sith makeup. And I rushed out of my panel as soon as it was done, as soon as we got all the prizes and stuff. And I hauled ass across the convention center to the room. I very loudly entered the room, not expecting it to be this tiny little thing, but it was so exciting. Dan Fogler's in the room. And I'm just sitting there and I'm texting Amber and I'm like, look at all of the names on this table. It was just unbelievable to me because my two worlds were coming together. I'm
glad you explained the costume.
My black cloak with the black flowy dress with the belt. Yeah.
You can imagine that was my first Comic-Con. So I was just
And well, Dan was giving out like his trading cards, and I don't know if I told you, Jeff, but he specifically went through his trading cards and gave me the one with his fanboys, which was the Star Wars movie that he did, which is great. So he's
I know that. I watched him pick out specifically the one he wanted to give you. He's amazing. Dan is an amazing actor. Amazing actor.
You guys have such a stack. I mean, if you want to talk about The Boy Who Loved Batman now, I'm in. Like, let's get that information out. We know how incredible you've done with Newsies. We know how incredible you've done with Grace. You know, there's things that like us, the fans, really know. But you've also done, you know, Deaf West Theater, which we'll definitely talk about too. And how you're making theater accessible and your career. Before we get to the Boy Who Loved Batman, let's talk about the boy who is Jeff Calhoun. Let's look at some photos. Jeff kindly provided us some photos. So let's see.
So I can't pretend that I don't know what you're going to show.
No, can't pretend. Not
so much for contrived spontaneity.
We didn't go stalking. We had to get permission. Consent is sexy, remember? All right. So let me pull this up. I'm going to start with.
This is great. This is so cool. I've never done a podcast this cool. You know, this laid back and just informative. Oh my God. Okay. Well, that's someone that your audience may not know unless they're my age. That's Ann Miller, famous MGM tap dancing star. And that's the show Anything Goes. And I was 16 years old. I'm the one right behind her on the right. And yeah, that's where I got my equity card. And that's where it started the whole thing at the Kenley Players. And later we'll talk about Mr. Kenley, who was such a huge part of my life and my career.
Absolutely. I just, your career.
Also, you probably know from 42nd Street, Eddie Skinner. Well, he's the one bent over with his face in, I don't know how to say it, but you know what I mean. He's like, I tease him about that a lot.
Over here?
Yes, that's him. Yeah.
I love it. It's fantastic. I mean, first off, what a cool photo. Secondly, what a great way to kickstart your career there. Jeez.
Amazing.
Oh, are you kidding me? My grandparents were in heaven. They were because Ann Miller, to me, even was a legend, but to my grandparents in that generation, she was as big a star as there was.
Yeah.
Cheyenne to this day, her numbers, Some Like It Hot, was still to this day one of the greatest numbers ever recorded. But what was weird as a 16-year-old was to go into her dressing room and she had all these wigs, but they all were identical. They were exactly identical. Unlike Dolly Parton, who, has different looks and had the same, thing going on there.
All right. Well, yes. I mean, just my goodness. So that's how we started off. Let's see. Talking about Dolly. Here's a really wonderful photo. Jeff, I'm so appreciative for this.
Well, Dolly and I met when I was 19 years old. No, that's not true. I was 19 was when I did a show called The Best Little Whorehouse in Texas.
Yes.
But then when I was 21, they did a movie of it. And this was, I was lucky enough to be cast as one of the boy dancers in this. And
so cool.
You weren't 19 in this photo, were you? Okay.
I was 21 in this one.
Wow, look at that hair. You still have the same hair. How'd you do that?
Well, thank you. You're being very kind and disingenuous, but I appreciate it. You can lie to me all you want.
I'm not. I have no reason to suck up to you. We're already friends.
I think that says 81, right? So I was 21, and it was the first, I have a very close family, and we spent all of our holidays at my grandma's house, and my nan and pop, you can see that. And this was the first year in 21 years that because I was shooting the movie, I couldn't be home for Christmas. Aww. So I sent them this as a Christmas present. That's why it says, nan and pop, Merry Christmas with love.
That's so that is sweet.
And
what,
then
you didn't come with Ann Miller? They were mad at you, I bet. I was kidding.
I still made Christmas that year. Aww. But what's interesting is that a few years ago, they wanted to they had done a production of 9 to 5 on Broadway.
Mm-hmm.
I was not involved with that, but they thought that the branding was such that maybe we could reinvent the show and have a life with it. So they sent me down to interview with Dolly because she had to approve the new director. And because she didn't, why would she know who I was? So when I showed her that photo of us, she said, it was divine intervention, and she gave me the gig. And then this is us all the decades later. This is opening night of 9 to 5.
Dolly's boobs. Sorry, Dolly. Yeah.
You don't have to zoom in that much for her.
Nope.
But this was opening. This was opening night on the West End of 9 to 5 at the Savoy Theater.
That's amazing. What a cool photo too, and like what a full circle moment there.
Full circle, right?
Cool.
I've been so blessed. Yeah, I've been so blessed that way, and she's a life enhancing experience. To meet her, just it enhances your life.
And they're thinking about doing a Dolly musical, I believe, aren't they?
They are, and yes, they are.
They're thinking about it for sure.
I would love to. Yes, I think Bart Scher's going to direct that, and he's a brilliant director. So as much as I would have loved to have done it, I can't complain when they hire someone as accomplished and as smart as Bart is.
Fair enough. Well, and we're talking about life-changing experiences. Let's see if I can get this photo here. Come on, little guy. We'll eventually get it to work. They've changed our studio a little bit. They're making improvements to StreamYard. So it's getting used to new stuff. Look at this photo, everybody.
Oh my God, that's going to make me sweat.
No, don't sweat.
Oh, I was so... All right. Well, I'll tell you what this is so trippy for me. As a kid, my favorite TV show is the Dick Van Dyke Show, where I first met Mary Tyler Moore as Laura Petrie. And then she had her own show, the Mary Tyler Moore Show. And I was a huge, huge fan. And and so there was a show Tommy Tune directed, choreographed, and starred in called My One and Only. And he left that show for 2 weeks. And they hired me to replace him. And she happened to be in the audience one of the nights that I performed the role. And I had my best friend at the time, Joe Hart, run to my apartment. And you only see the corner of it. That's actually a picture I had on my wall of Mary Tyler Moore in her MGM studio where she worked. MGM, I think that was called the newsroom. Anyway, that's a picture of her she's holding, but you can only see the corner of it. So that was a highlight. That was such a highlight, Heather and Amber, that's when I closed the door on performing, because I realized how many times is this, tap dancer with a sense of humor from Pittsburgh get to take the final bow in a Broadway show, right? Playing a Tony Award winning role. And I realized how fortunate I was. And I said, now's the time to close that door and to pursue my choreographic and directing career. So
you can almost say this photo captures the most life-altering decision that you've made.
Yeah, it was a great end of a chapter.
Talk about going out on a high note.
Shit, no kidding.
You know who she reminds me of? There was years ago, I did a show called The Will Rogers Follies. Yes. And we won the Tony Award, and we were very successful. So we were going to have a national tour. And so Tommy Tune sent me out on the road to cast the beautiful women to be the Follies ladies. And in Detroit, in walked this tall, skinny, amazing woman wearing hot pants and flip-flops, oddly enough. But the minute she opened her mouth, my jaw dropped. And I called Tommy and I said, I have our first lady, and her name was Sutton Foster. And Sutton reminds me of Mary Tyler Moore so much.
Oh, a lot.
Yes.
Anyway, so I just think that's also another little circle there.
And then Anything Goes. There's another full circle.
And then Once Upon a Mattress.
Once Upon a Mattress.
Quadruple circles.
Well, she's brilliant. She and Michael Urie. I was lucky enough to be invited to the opening night, and the two of them, the cast is sensational. And the two of them are truly, they just steal the show. They're both remarkable performers, and they figured it out. They figured out how to take a show of yesteryear and honor that, but still make it feel like they got the finger on today's pulse. Kind of remarkable.
But think about it this way, and I hope that you do, because you've had to tackle that too. You've had several very recognizable IPs. I mean, Newsies, Grease, Big River. I mean, there are so many things you have tackled. And I think that maybe you showed them how to approach something, because you have to respect the original art, and then you kind of have to do something new, and then you have to continue to do something while allowing your performers to kind of bring something new to the table, but still respect everything and continue the fandom.
Yeah, Heather, I think maybe that's the hardest.
Of course.
That might be the hardest part of being an artist, is respecting the shoulders of the people that you're standing on from the past, but yet not becoming a dinosaur, still feeling relevant, even though as you get older and the culture gets younger, how do you stay relevant? I always like to say, Norman Rockwell, when they asked him, they would always ask him, what's your favorite sketch? And he would always say, the next. And that's what I feel like. I feel like I haven't yet done my best work, but yet in the back of your mind, there's always that fear of, are you still relevant? Having done it this long, because theater has changed so much, are you and can you still be relevant? And I think it's smart to ask yourself a question rather than being in denial, because I think it forces you to try to address that and see how you can answer that question.
Right. Now, how do you inspire your cast when you're going through that? Like, is there something that you convey to them? Do you kind of just let them take that energy and harness it? Like, what is your approach?
Well, honestly, I've never actually said that out loud before. I'm just actually, realizing this.
Yeah.
My problem is, and much to my husband's chagrin, is he said, you need to edit. I'm kind of an open book and I wear my heart on my sleeve. So I'm not sure that I'm not presumptuous enough to think that I have anything, words of wisdom for the cast. What I can do is, if you hire the right people, my job is to make them the best they can be by surrounding them with a production they can be proud of.
Well, and
because once you hire them, we have an amazing, can I brag about? Okay.
Yes.
We have both local talent and New York talent. We have Kellen Bashar, who's a remarkable actress. We have Nicholas Hoop. Both are from here, but live in other out of town now, but they're fantastic. And Paul Schaefer and Catherine Yako and Hugh Timoney, and of course, Dan Fogler is our star. And they're it's an ensemble piece. And those 6 actors play like 40 different characters.
It's crazy.
So that's hopefully the fun and the comedy comes from that. But Dan, I was a fan of Dan's when I saw him 20 years ago or 21 years ago. He won the Tony as Best Supporting Actor for a James Lapine directed musical called Putnam County Spelling Bee.
Yeah.
And he won the Tony for that. And we just think of him as this really funny, jolly kind of a guy. But having worked with him for the last 2 weeks, he's remarkable. He's like a mix of, if you took like Al Pacino and Robin Williams and you put them together, because he has a couple scenes in the show where he goes deep, where it's not just like waka waka fun, and it just breaks your heart. He's a remarkable actor, and we're really grateful for him. And I encourage anyone that loves the theater to come see this piece, even if you're not into Comic-Con or Batman or any of that, because to be honest with you, I didn't know anything about Batman until I got this job. And then, of course, I've saturated myself.
And now you can't say that anymore.
And now my sheets are Batman, my pillowcases are Batman. But if you're just a theater lover, I encourage you to come see this cast, helmed by Dan, because it's really, hopefully, it's a really fun, it's a 90-minute in and out kind of comedy. And it'll be interesting because comedies are hard to rehearse, right? Because you don't have an audience. Comedies need that. The other actor in a comedy is the audience. Right. They're your scene partner. You riff off of their laughter or lack thereof. So it's going to be exciting. We open October 1st, and we'll have 3 or 4 days to fix and change the show based on audience's reaction until our official opening on October 4th.
And the Strauss Center is in Tampa, and so an hour from me. So I get my little feel of Broadway here. And it's exciting because when you bring in the local and you bring in the outside talent, and it kind of comes together cohesively, it's good. And you touch on these different points. You've had to approach things. I mean, let's talk about Bonnie and Clyde for a second, kind of combining the two. You've got really heavy, serious historical stuff, and a little bit of fun and playfulness, and a really heavy, super stuff. The Boy Who Loved Batman is based off of Michael Eslin's story from how he brought the Batman franchise essentially to the cinema, and like from young to old, essentially, which is really incredible. But you have something that's out there as a book, and you have to do that original work justice. And a fun fact, Jeff, I don't think we even talked about this, is I had the honor of sitting as a panelist by being hosted by Julie Boardman at Broadway Con, and I hosted the Bonnie and Clyde panel, as well as our digital viewing of it, because they just put it out for streaming. So full circle too. It's really cool. So like, it's really interesting.
Well, I think, Amber, I think what you're asking is, how do you approach all these different kinds of material? And the truth is, yeah, very much the same. It's all craft, right? Yep. It's all storytelling. The stories are different, but the craft of theater is the same. Although, even as I'm saying that, I'm remembering what I said about wanting to have your finger on the pulse. Sure. So what is the craft today? Do you know what I mean?
It's staying relevant and being educated.
Well, if someone walks on stage, are we supposed to judge them as part of the storytelling, or are we supposed to look past the visual and just think of the text? And these are very interesting and honest questions that we're confronted with in today's market. And I think there's a really happy medium that when you hit it, everyone wins. When you're anyway.
No.
Sorry,
No, don't apologize. How dare you? No, I mean, we get that a lot. Amber and I were talking about that earlier. You've got color washing, which I think is great. There should be absolutely, it doesn't matter if this character is originally portrayed by an African-American, a Caucasian, somebody who's purple. It's totally fun.
Absolutely.
Line casting is fantastic.
Look what I did with Billy Porter in Grease.
Yes,
that role is always done as the quintessential white Pat Boone. Well, Pat Boone ripped off Little Richard and became successful. So I'm thinking, let's go back to the source and let's make him Little Richard. And that was back in the early 90s.
Yeah.
And so I think that's very important representation. Very important.
Absolutely. And your work with Deaf West Theater, like if you want to dive into that, like it's fascinating because you're having to blend and make sure that the audience is able to enjoy, but also that the cast is cohesive. Do you want to touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, it's hard to talk about because it's profoundly the deepest experience for me, both professionally and personally, trying to figure out how to honor the art form of putting on a musical where half the cast is deaf and half the cast is hearing. That had never been done before. And for people that aren't aware of that, all of the deaf actors were voiced by hearing actors, but they had to learn how to stay with music they couldn't hear. And the hearing actors had to learn how to incorporate ASL into all of their English dialogue. So it was quite a challenge and the hardest thing that I've ever had to do. And I think mathematically proportionate to the reward. I think the reward is mathematically proportionate to how hard it is, as I think everything in life is its opposite, right? You can love only to the degree you can hate. You can laugh only to the degree you can cry. So anyway, it was working with Deaf West. When I got that phone call from Deaf West, it really changed my life. And the deaf actors I worked with, Troy Kotzer, who won the Oscar for Coda 2 years ago, was in every one of my Deaf West shows. And I kept saying to people, if he wasn't deaf, he would be the most famous actor on the planet. Mm-hmm. And so just made me so happy when he got that recognition and he won the Oscar.
Yeah.
I mean, it really was
Inspiring. Yeah.
It is so inspiring, and just that's what the arts are for, is to have shared experiences from different cultures, right? And that's my favorite thing about the arts, and that's what I think why I just keep going, even as hard as it is, especially as, you know, a director that's getting older and there's new generations coming in. What keeps me doing it is just how beautiful the art form is that we have people from different walks of life coming into a theater. You're sitting next to someone you would never sit next to in your life and having a shared experience. What's more beautiful than that? For me, that's church. Theater is church for me.
Yep. We talk about it all the time because, know, literally, Amber and I did not know each other before I asked her to be an admin of my Sweeney Todd group, and she's become one of my best friends. And
beautiful.
It brings the most random people together. And yeah, you want representation on the stage. You want people to, like, I'll try not to get emotional. There was a little girl in a wheelchair, and I was at Suffs, and there was a performer in a wheelchair. Yeah. And the little girl, I'm trying so hard not to get emotional. The little girl in the middle of seeing this woman roll out pointed and said, "She's just like me, mommy." And see how many emotional. It's so, it's just, oh my God, I'm crying. I'm sorry, guys. Theater is so important. And
yeah, but so, how beautiful.
Beautiful.
That's right.
You know what, I was going to say I'm embarrassed that I'm emotional, but I'm not embarrassed. I'm proud of that. Yeah. I think we need the arts. You know what? I always talk about this, and my friends think I'm crazy. The only thing I love
you are, but we love you for it.
Well, it's two separate questions. You're absolutely right. There's my two favorite passions are the arts and sports. And I think they're the same thing.
Yes.
They do the same thing. Every Sunday, people get together in these stadiums that they have nothing in common with to share this one experience. I mean, I love the costumes, I love the lighting, and I love that the story isn't written until you watch it unfold. Yeah. So I find those two together. So I just think that's one of my favorite memories. I'm going to digress for a second, Amber.
Digress. This is your show.
If that's okay. But
absolutely.
Years ago, I was living in LA, and the Dodgers were playing a very important game. And Kirk Gibson, it doesn't matter because people that know are going to know Kirk Gibson. I'm not going to talk. But anyway, we were down, we were losing, and the Dodgers. And Kirk Gibson had a groin injury, so he couldn't be in the game.
Right.
But when they needed one more batter to end the game, he came out limping out of the dugout, and we were all like, "Oh no," because he couldn't do anything. He couldn't walk. All he could do was hit a home run, and then he could. He said, "Well, he hit a home run." I saw straight men, people of different walks of life, hugging and crying each other, and I had this out-of-body experience where I'm like, it was beautiful, but it also was sad that it took something like this for that kind of emotional insight, but it was beautiful. And it's one of my favorite memories of my life. And it took a straight guy hitting a ball out of a park for strangers to hug each other, and they loved each other in this moment. I mean, they loved each other. And that's what I think the arts can do so beautifully.
Absolutely. It's literally whatever it takes. So about 2 years ago, theater was always a big part, as I said. And like during the pandemic, it was gone. And I felt like a part of me. I literally was at Broadway Flea in 2019, and I didn't get back to New York until 2022. It's the longest time. I'm usually there once a month. Yeah. And I felt like part of me was missing. And one of my best friends, Amy, when theater started coming back, I watched Frozen on tour. It was the first show that came back to the Dr. Phillips Center here in Orlando. That's my dad. My dad says hi. But I sat there and just sobbed. And I went to my friends at the Renaissance Theater here, had Musical Mondays, and it was the first one. And I felt like a piece of me came back. And Amy was like, "You need a theater." And but I do a lot of Orlando. I'm crying. I'm sorry. But Orlando Fringe a lot. And I said, you know what? I'm gonna start to surround myself with more of my theater friends. None of us BS of like seeing each other once a year. Like, we live in the same damn city. Like, let's start doing things. And I've cultivated this incredible community of family that I think saved me in a bit. I felt a little bit lost, and then it saved me, and I started focusing, and then I create this random group, and then I meet Amber, and then we have the Broadway fan club, and now we're here talking to you, Jeff. Like, it's this crazy path, and if it wasn't for theater, I don't know where I'd be.
No, I totally agree. It has saved my life. It's a collection of, it's like misfits find each other in the arts.
Yeah,
and I think that's I think that's a beautiful thing. Yeah. And the COVID it was so profound for me too, because I realized I'm such a hypocrite, because for years I told people what's really important I listed all these other things, not your career. But what I realized is during COVID and not working, I felt so worthless, like I had nothing to offer the world. And I realized I do get my self-worth. Yes, I have great parents. I mean, I have the best parents in the world. I have the best husband in the world, but I still felt a little sadness and emptiness.
Yeah.
And it's doing my work that fulfills me.
Yes.
I just love it so much.
We get a lot of members who they're wanting to break into this industry, and they ask so many questions, and we're always happy to kind of navigate. But this industry, this world, it sounds so silly. And I think everybody here is probably going to agree with the next statement. There are some haters that are just like, theater is just make believe, like you need a real job or real world. And I'm like, this is, first off, much harder work.
It's a hard industry.
Oh, I'm sorry. Theater is blue collar work, baby.
Oh,
people 100%. Don't understand. It is blue collar work.
Yes.
It's true.
Longer hours. You're putting yourself out there 8 times a week, 500.
Yeah, you don't have trailers and makeup artists, and the backstage is not glamorous. It is very hard blue collar work.
And it's creating that escape, that like fantastical escape that allows people to decompress. We had a member that had reached out in our Gatsby group. Apparently during intermission, somebody had found out their father had passed and was clinging to the playbill. But they went back in. And me personally, I had found out right before going to see The Notebook. I was sitting at my favorite soup dumpling place, Didi's Soup Dumpling, and my mom said, "You need to hurry your trip up." My stepdad had just had a severe stroke while he was in the hospital, and I was just a hysterical mess. And then I went to The Notebook, which also made me a hysterical mess. I'm not a pretty crier, but it was that escape. It's
healing. It's healing.
Yeah.
It's like Laura Osnes. Laura Osnes lost her mother while we were doing Bonnie and Clyde. And I thought, well, of course, she should leave. She should be out for a week. No, she didn't miss. It was healing for her. Again, Laura and Jeremy are just
lovely. Jeremy is just, and you've dealt with Jeremy. I love Jeremy. Don't get me wrong. JJ is great. But you've now worked with him twice officially capacity.
Well, twice in big shows, but many other events. Yeah. But both Jeremy and Laura were spectacular, as was Claiborne, the whole cast.
Yeah.
Oh my God, Melissa. I mean, yeah.
What if you've been able to bring these characters to life? We were talking about getting people into what would be your best stage advice? Like when you're casting for a show, what are you looking for? Obviously, it's going to be different every time. Is there something like when you had that Sutton Foster moment, was there something that was like true grit? Like she's got this, besides that she opened up her mouth and Sutton Foster, but is there something that you look for when you're auditioning or working with?
Heather, I do believe that I have only 2 God-given talents. I can tap dance for some reason. I can tap dance, and I'm a very good judge of character. And the judgment of character is what goes into why I think my greatest attribute as a director is casting.
Okay.
What are you looking for? It's something that's inexplicable. To name it would diminish its profundity.
magic.
But if I really do, if I'm captivated by someone's audition, I will pretend to go to the bathroom when they leave the room, and I will watch them outside of the room to be sure I wasn't fooled.
You
know what? It's such it's so hard to create magic.
Yes.
That you want people there who come with an open heart. And where I learned this is Deaf West Theater. That people, it is so generous for a hearing actor to want to be in a Deaf West production because they will take a back seat.
Right.
And it attracts a certain type of person. And that's the kind of person I love to work with. And everyone that we have mentioned thus far does fall into that, from Sutton to Jeremy to Laura to the entire cast of the Batman, from Dan on down. And it's very important. It's really important, because one bad apple, as corny as that is,
nope, you're right. It ruins a bunch.
It's too hard. It's really hard. And people, you know what? It's just so funny because our job is to make it look easy. And audiences have no idea how many hundreds of people it takes to give them that evening of appearance of simplicity.
And you go from, you have everybody working hard. Boof, you have a show. No show is alike. They're all, even though you're doing the same context, somebody is not feeling good. Somebody has had a really good day. Somebody's performing differently. I heard the blocking nightmares from, Jeremy sometimes, because he's very, but he wants to do everything right.
Wait, I don't know what you mean. Blocking of what shows he talking about?
That when they were doing the when they're doing the live, now that they have it on streaming, when they did the live capture, but they had to edit because he was going from one extreme of blocking and then creating something totally different because he was still in the character.
Yeah. I understand. Yep.
But I mean, and he's great, but you're taking all of the stuff, and then on top of that, I have to say, and I'm gonna fancy out for a second with Newsies. First off, massive cast. Secondly, you've got people like Tommy Bracco and Jeremy Jordan to reel in, and then Kara, who is lovely, Kara Lindsay, freaking phenomenal.
As lovely as anyone you will ever meet in your life, and the genius of Chris Gattelli.
Yes, and this set that just shifts and moves, and the lighting, and there's so much incorporated into it. It's almost like you're having to direct the set with everybody else, and it's a whole other character on its own.
The whole point. Oh, sorry.
No, don't apologize.
No, I was gonna say Tobin Ost, who did the brilliant set to that. We did one set that we brought to Tom Schumacher, who is the president of Disney Theatrics, and he vetoed it. He said it it made the show feel like a revival. So Tobin and I went out to a bar and got drunk, and we were so upset because we thought it was great, and we're like, all right, but it's the best thing that ever happened to us because it forced us into the world of what I call metaphor. Every set to me should be a metaphor for the text.
Yes.
And that set to me, I told Tobin, we need a jungle gym that can be Goliath to the kids' David. Yeah. But yet look like a cityscape. And so at the time when we get to Once and For All, when they traverse to the top and then they don't have to, finally in the show, they can just stand there and let the set move them downstage. It's such a metaphor for them conquering Goliath. And I just love sets that do that. And I try to find a metaphor for every set I do. And Tobin's just a brilliant set designer. So thank you for mentioning that. It's a huge character in the show. Yeah.
Huge. And when I tell you, Jeff, when I'm telling you, I'm trying to not lose my words. When I'm telling you made I started Newsies Bingo. This was something I started a couple of months ago because I already had met Kara. I'm dear friends with Jim Abbott. I've had the opportunity to meet Kara. I know Jeremy, know Tom. I have all these people I collect, and I'm like, okay, there's Newsies Bingo. And then when I was like, freaking Jeff Calhoun, bingo. But it's my comfort show. And I don't know if you know, I'm sure you know that term. People have shows that just go back to because it's homey. It's like a warm hug. And when I cannot make this up, Amber will attest to this because I tell her every day. I wake up to Seize the Day or Once and For All every morning. It's on my alarm. And if I'm stressed out, I throw on the Broadway version on Disney Plus or I'm in my car and I sing it, and it's because I'm there and I start trying to do Kara's patter, or I start like start belting it out simply because it's a comfort show for me, and it's kind of like reading your favorite book.
No, I've not heard that phrase before, comfort show, but that's beautiful and that warms my heart. And all those people you talked about, Kara, and don't forget Ryan Steele, who blew people away with those, you know, I mean, that was just amazing. Some nights he would do like 8, some like 10. It was just on the newspaper. Amazing. The whole cast was amazing. And you talked earlier about in Amber's Broadway news about 2 Broadway debuts happening. Well, we had 20-something Broadway debuts in Greece.
Yeah.
And a few high school graduations on our stage at the Niederlander.
Wow.
It's a really beautiful experience. You know, between the Deaf West experience and Newsies, I feel very, very fortunate and lucky.
Now, when you're out and about, do you feel that you get recognized, or if you start talking to a theater nerd?
Oh God, no. No one. I'm so old. I just went to a Broadway sleep out with, you know, and I used to like know everyone. I didn't know who anyone was. They didn't know who I was. It's a hard business to age in. No one knows who I am.
I'm going to tell you, Jeff, people do, because when we talked about you were going to be on the show, we got a lot of people like Jeffrey and Cheyenne, like a lot of people that were very much like, are you kidding me? Like, that's amazing, because you have such a history. You were so humble. And like, that's really what I took away when we first met, was like, you were like, hey, we should talk. We should, like, I felt like I had interrupted the panel at Tampa Bay, and it became like the Heather panel for a second, but I just wanted to be there and be like, how can we help mobilize the fans for The Boy Who Loved Batman? How can we do this kind of stuff? Because we are theater fans first and foremost, but we've been, you know, we talk about like our wheelhouses and what we're good at. I love the marketing piece of it. Amber loves the logistics. We have this really fantastic, like, cohesive relationship when it comes to that kind of stuff. But we also have the knowledge, and we call it our lightning in a bottle, that we can take it and mobilize the information so that our almost 500,000 followers, which is still insane to say.
It's insane. And you should just, when you put your head on your pillow, you should just sleep so well, because that's quite an amazing accomplishment, both of you. It's amazing. Amazing.
Thank you.
We fight with it too. And, you know, we kind of touched on this a little bit. You know, we're not influencers. We're not doing TikTok videos. We're not doing out there. We're educating. We're doing our Broadway news. We're going to these events. I pay to go from Orlando to New York at least once a month. Wow. To go up, take photos of stuff, maybe have a meeting, maybe like knock on some doors, or just interface with people. Like, I'm so fortunate that Amber and I are going to be spending some time with Broadway Cares on Sunday. Like, Fran from Broadway Cares is incredible. Yeah. And they're so generous with their time. But you have, and maybe this is a question I'll ask you. I'm going to throw it to you. You have influencers, and there's nothing wrong with that. But to me, there's no way of tracking an influencer. Yes, they have followers for their videos. They do one hit on your show and off they go. We are creating communities to perpetuate and continue the love of that show. We have shows that have closed that we still stay active on, you know, for this member for this, or, you know, going from Aaron Tveit was in Sweeney Todd, but now he's back to Moulin Rouge, and the walls are just going crazy. And we want to make sure that we're doing justice.
He's amazing, isn't he? I'm a huge fan of Aaron's too. Huge.
Yeah, he's great.
Someone else I'm dying to work with. Yep.
I mean, and you saw that he's having a baby soon. Well, not soon, but in the next couple of months.
Wow.
I know. It's amazing.
Yeah.
We stay on top of all the gossip. But yeah, I mean, what can we do? And I'm going to ask you this directly in regards to all general theater. What can we do to help, and for our viewers, of course, as well, what can they do to help to continue if they can't get to New York, or if they can't get to Tampa for The Boy Who Loved Batman? Or, you know, what's the best way to support? Is it social media? Is it just following? Like, what do you think would help?
God, that's above my pay scale. I think that if they're watching you right now to hear that question, there's their answer. They're doing the right thing.
Thank you.
It's a really hard question to answer, and I don't know about influencers.
No, that's okay.
It's a new thing that's.
I mean, I've gotten recognized in the theater district, and I'm like, how do you
listen?
know?
You know what? Heather, it's hard to, you may not believe it, but I'm a Cancer, a true Cancerian, and I have my shell, and I have my parents, I have my husband, and then I have my theater, either the rehearsal room or the tech or the preview period, or I'm working with a writer or I'm working with designers. And that's my myopic, I'm very tunnel vision. So I wish I wasn't. I wish I knew more about pop culture and who people are, but it's just so hard to make it work that I don't know how people have time to do more than I'm 24/7 thinking about The Boy Who Loved Batman.
Oh, yeah.
That's all I'm doing right now. It's all I'm doing. It's every scene. Is there something I could do differently? Is there a visual I should do differently? Should I have directed this differently? Is there a different line? Because this is a new play.
Right.
We're not doing a revival. Right. We're not. It's brand new. It's like cooking a meal that has never had a recipe.
Right.
And
right.
Trying to make up something and you hope that you have the right ingredients, which is so exciting to me. And I think a lot of theater people want to go to proven commodities. Right? You go to a restaurant, you don't go to a new restaurant that has a menu you've never seen. You go to a restaurant that has the food you're familiar with.
Yeah.
And it's great, but it's also one of the problems with theater.
Enduring.
It's people going to something they don't know about, something that doesn't have a star or isn't already branded. And that's one of the tragedies of Broadway right now. The first question that I'm asked by a producer is, who's attached? And then the second question is, how many people in the show? Now, this is all before they want to know what the show is about.
Right, because they want the stunt casting.
And I understand it. It's just so expensive. It's such a commitment nowadays. Both for the producer, it's expensive, and for the fans. To pay for a babysitter, parking, dinner, the show, it's a huge investment. So I always feel responsible to try to do the best that I can. And you heard me say this at Comic-Con when people say, what do you want people to leave the theater with? And I want them to leave the theater with more energy than they had when they came in and excited to go back to the theater.
Right.
But it's hard, and I appreciate that, which is why I'm grateful for everyone and anyone that comes and sees the theater and supports it, because I know it's an investment.
Oh, it's an investment for sure, but it's worth it. And you said I know we're running a little bit over time. I don't want to hold you all up, but let's talk a little bit about The Boy Who Loved Batman. Let's get a 5-minute push. So you're in rehearsals right now.
Yeah, we're at the end of we just finished our second week of rehearsal.
Okay.
And we have one more week of rehearsal. Then we move into the theater. And it's this beautiful theater in the Straz Center. It's 300-seat theater that is perfect for a new show, because it's a new show is like a newborn, right? And you put it in a crib. You don't take a newborn and put him in a king-size bed.
No.
Right.
We're starting in the right venue that will embrace us, and it's really exciting. It's about this man's life that's kind of remarkable. His name is Michael Uslan, and he was this kid in a working class, middle class family in New Jersey who was obsessed with Batman. He had 30,000 comics by the time he was a teenager.
Wow.
And when the 60s TV show came out of Batman, now those of us my age, I'm an
Adam West fan, shout out.
I was 6 years old when it came out, and I thought it was really fun. Well, he loathed it with every fiber of his being, because it had nothing to do with the Dark Knight Batman from the comics, which I didn't know until I read his memoir because the show is his memoir.
Yeah.
And my task was to turn it into an evening of theater. So he was from New Jersey, as I said, knew nobody in Hollywood, knew nothing about the arts. Because of the support of his mom and dad, and then his wife, Nancy, they supported him so much that he went to law school, got his foot in the door in Hollywood, and eventually acquired the rights to Batman and made it the movie franchise that we know today. And that's what our story is about. It's just fascinating. And it's also very funny.
But I love that it's based off of true events.
Right.
I think that kind of I think maybe that's why I also resonate with Newsies, Bonnie and Clyde. It's true events. it's based off of it. It's kind of like making a little bit more of a prettier package, and maybe not. Maybe you're getting into like the deep, dark stuff.
No. We're being, and Michael's very involved. He has to approve everything, and he's just so passionate and so smart, as is Nancy, his wife. My job, he says to me, Jeff, my entire life is literally in your hands. And I was like, oh shit, I didn't
no
need
pressure.
more pressure. So I hope that he's happy. We're all excited. We don't know, it'll be interesting. If someone comes and sees the show on October 1st, it'll be a different show on October 2nd and on October 3rd, because that's how it evolves.
I specifically seek out shows when they're in previews, and then I go see it after it's open.
Me too.
I mean, it's just because you see the original art, and then you see what's been adjusted, and it might be the slightest nuance, but it makes all the difference.
And see, what other metaphor is there for that other than sports? You got your preseason before the first game. Right. It's like you don't see the Barefoot Contessa's recipes until they're approved and in her cookbook.
Right.
You don't see the process of how she made that chicken, with a lemon up its butt.
No, you just see the end result. Like people talk about Bob Ross, and I always think it's fascinating.
Oh my God, I love Bob Ross.
Love Bob Ross.
It's all process. That's brilliant, Heather. That is a brilliant analogy. Brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, everyone's like, oh, he did this, and it's a happy little accident, happy little tree, happy little this, and they're like, do you know how many times he went through and practiced these paintings until he could get it down? Because I teach art class twice a month. I teach paint class to people that have never painted before, and I'm like, trust the process. Like, there's a method to it, but like,
wait, would he say happy accident? Did that come from Bob Ross?
Yes.
I use that all the time, and I thought I coined that. I stole that from Bob Ross.
You stole something from Bob Ross
because we pray for happy accidents.
Yes. Yeah.
It's that eureka moment of the process. Where you're like, oh my God, I'm not smart enough to think of that, but I was aware enough to have my blinders off that I recognize it when it happens.
Right. Mm-hmm. And then it's that magic, because you're like, oh, you would not have said that word, or you wouldn't have moved this way if this didn't happen, or like part of the set didn't work. Well, now how do you move around that? Now you have something different. I always find it fascinating too, Jeff, is that I've done every part of a theater. I've been choreo, like local, obviously, production, everything. I've never directed. And I've said for the last probably about 8 years, I always wanted to try it out. I just don't know what to do. I've stage managed, but also like I've worked with directors who are like really great. And I've worked with directors who are micromanagers. So it's kind of, you have to kind of stay above the line.
I think you surround yourself with the right people. You surround yourself with people that fill your voids.
Right.
And you create an environment. And if you've hired the right artists, you create an environment where everyone can be the best they can be. That, I think, is the job of the director. It's not to micromanage. It's not to say, oh, do this now, do that now. I remember Robert Altman. I was a kid watching Robert Altman and the Oscars get a Lifetime Achievement Award. And he said something that was just, it blew me away. He said, actors always say, why don't you say more to me? And he said, because I want you to do something better than I could say.
Right.
And I was like, that's my whole thing. I mean, yes, when a push comes to shove and we're in previews and something's not working, I'm going to be very specific. But until then, you want, and if you cast right, you want the artist to give you something better than you imagine. Yep, which is why I say my job is just to protect them in a production that they're proud to be in, and then let them do what they were born to do.
I love that.
Yep.
That's amazing.
I think that's some sage advice. So I guess we'll wrap up. I'm sorry that we ran so late. Thank you so much for your time.
Yes.
Thank you both for what you do. When I was a kid, well, we didn't have computers, but to have something like this for kids that don't have access to New York, as you were saying, or a big city to see shows or tours, this is invaluable. I would have eaten you all up as a kid like crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, I just think it's invaluable what you're doing. It's really great.
I mean, my dad just turned into
you asking me to be part of this.
You had no choice. I was saying my dad just got it. So I had the pleasure of taking my dad to his first Broadway show last year. He had never been. And he's
What was it?
Shocked.
Oh, perfect. Did he love it?
Loved it.
It's so funny. Jack O'Brien is just brilliant. Speaking of Marsha Mason replacing Jack's latest show.
Right. Yeah, I took him to Shocked, Moulin Rouge in New York. And
oh my God, boom, boom, boom.
I had to do like jukebox, musical, original, and then like hee haw. And he loved it. And so, but it's interesting. So I remember always hearing the story when he was in high school that it was Annie Get Your Gun and he rode his motorcycle onto the stage. I remember that story from when I was a kid. We'd laugh about it. And now that he just turned 70 in July.
Oh, he's
and
young.
He is young. And he's a theater kid now because his community, they have like this 55 and older community. He has a theater group and he has a theater club and we do theater and like little productions. I think the first one he sent me a video of, it was like a dating game thing, but he played a murderer. It was hysterical. Weird, but also like, I'm like, Dad, you're a theater kid. And, you know, to be able to share that with him and to like, he's always really embraced like my wacky, weird side. And I love it. But it's so cool because I'm like, I did that.
You're lucky to have a dad like that. That's beautiful.
Yes, very, very fortunate. But all right, let's give a last push. The Boy Who Loved Batman, starting October 1st, official opening night October 4th. It is running through November 10th. Is that what we're looking at, Jeff?
We'll go with that.
November 10th.
6 weeks. It's 6 weeks. Yeah.
It is at the Straw Center in Tampa. Lots of cool hotels in the area, lots of great places. If you're not local, I know everyone's all over. Come down and see this because, guys, when I'm telling you.
Too, if they come that first week, I will be there and I would want to hear their notes because that will inform me for the rehearsal for the next day.
You heard it from Jeff. Be an open book to him about if you loved it or hated it. But creative.
Be constructive criticism.
Constructive and creative. Yes. Don't be like.
If you hated it, I don't want to know. Lie to me. I don't want to know.
But go see it. It's at the Strass. It's a limited run, guys. This is when I say this is the ground floor of this show. There are so many opportunities, and I'm going to say, see it now when it's having its world premiere, because if you don't see it now and it eventually hits the bigger stages, you're going to be like, I could have seen it. I could have seen the original, the OG, the first time these guys have gone on and presenting it to this entire 300-seat theater. That's intimate. The show is cool. The book that Michael wrote is really incredible. Go read the memoir. It's available online. We will post everything up as far as ticket availability. I will hopefully be there one of those first 4 nights. Jeff, and your husband and I can just go.
Don't worry. And I have to add that it was written, our librettist is Asa Summers, a great young writer.
Love Asa.
Great young writer. He's really the star of the show, he and Dan. So I encourage people to come and see us early because we hope after this to be on the West End before Broadway.
Which I think what a great track. We'll put the links up for the website for the show itself. We'll put the stuff up for the memoir. We're going to do everything we can. If you guys have any questions that you haven't thought of, or if you want to just show Jeff some love, please reach out to us. We'll get it over to him. He really is this nice in real life. Like this is not a joke. This is not fake. Jeff, you just, from the moment I met you, I was like, you're legit because you're humble. I think you've influenced a lot of people's lives, especially people in my age group and Amber's age group. Like you've done so much that we've loved. And I want to celebrate the people that aren't. And I love Jeremy again, but like everyone knows Jeremy Jordan. He's a household name, but I think you need some, you need your damn Tony, Jeff. I'm going to petition it. Jeff Calhoun, Tony.
Another full circle moment. I just saw Asa in Water for Elephants covering for Camel.
Yes, you did.
You want to know the truth, Heather? I would rather direct people for them to win Tonys than care about me winning myself, to be honest with you.
I love that. Well, yeah, I think that's
my job. That's my job. No one knows, the director. No one knows the director. And that's fine. It should be that way. It should be the people on stage that we celebrate.
Of course. I think we should celebrate everybody, but I agree. I mean, and we really appreciate everything that you've done, Jeff. Thank you for your time.
Yeah.
This is a lot of fun.
I had a great time, and thanks to everyone listening. Amber, thank you so much. I love your doggy.
Yes.
And thank you, Heather. I love your
dad. Gotta give the viewers the dog tax.
Oh, look at
yes, there's a puppy tax. Yes, and my dad loves you too because you made his daughter cry in the happiest way possible. But yeah, we will talk to you backstage. So guys, please make sure you go check out The Boy Who Loved Batman. We'll put all the links up on the groups tonight or tomorrow, and we're going to keep you posted. This is not the last you've heard about the show, and it's certainly not the last time you've heard from Jeff. Jeff, anytime you want to come back and hang out with us, we'd love to have you as well. And make sure you guys stay tuned to the Broadway Fan Club. If you want to check out our website, see what groups that we run, you can go to the BroadwayFanClub.com. So this is for us. Thank you for listening to me fangirl. It's fantastic. But hope everybody has a great week. And remember, when Broadway is dark, we keep that ghost light burning. See y'all soon.
Bye.
Bye.